Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We got Harrison tonight. How we doing, bud?
Good. How we doing, Nick?
Not too bad, not too bad. Coach Sean is out this week. Hopefully he'll be back next week. But yeah, so it'll just be me and Harrison tonight recapping this past week. So
And before we get started, real quick, Nick, I got to make sure I get in. Aaron Boone is a terrible, terrible manager. I promised Sean I'd get a shot in at Boone since he's not here. Boone is terrible. All right, done.
I mean, yeah, we always got to get one shot of him in there. So great. All right, before we get going, make sure you follow, like us on Facebook. You can share all our posts. You can post on our timeline. Subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, leading off this week in baseball. Finally, the last MLB team ever to hit a cycle finally did. Luis Arraez, hitting a measly 534 or whatever that insane batting average is right now. Finally hits the first cycle in Marlins history, and now all 30 MLB teams has had a player hit for the cycle. So that was a pretty cool moment. Luis Arraez is an absolute machine. Every time the dude gets up, it seems like he's on base somehow.
Yeah, and he's been slumping pretty hard lately. He went like 1 for 4 his last couple of games. He's down to 471 after that cycle. So I honestly I can't think of it. I've watched a bunch of his at bats this year because I find this guy fascinating. I can't think of an at bat where he was fooled or looked overmatched. The guy is just constantly putting the ball in play, and he's got to be annoying to pitch to.
Yeah, even in the WBC, the dude was just tearing it up, like doubles in the gap, slapping it over the shortstop's head. Like he just couldn't get him out.
No,
still can't.
Machine.
So that's cool. I mean, we'll probably bring up the Marlins in a little bit when we talk about the standings here in a little bit, but I mean, yeah, he's a reason why the Marlins are where they are right now for sure.
Well, and I was shocked about that stat. You think of all the good hitters that have passed through Florida, Cabrera and Renneria and Lowell and all those guys that rolled through there. Nobody had hit for the cycle there yet. I found that amazing that nobody had done it there before.
Especially in Joe Robbie Stadium. That place was big.
Well, it had those little weird nooks and crannies too.
Right. So for no one to hit a triple there and then, finish it off with everything else you're right. It's kind of a weird stat, but yeah. Also leading off, Pete Alonso is absolutely on fire. The dude absolutely tore apart the Oakland A's single-handedly. It seems like every night he had 2 bombs, and they were tanks too. He hit one to left, and then the one in center, I don't even think the center fielder even moved, and that was to tie the game.
I mean, he's got 8, and every single one of them has been big. There's not a cheap one in the bunch. Everything has been crushed. He's on everything right now. Absolutely everything.
It's so impressive, and I hope he keeps it up. I mean, 8 home runs this early is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, and Pete's proven over the years he tends to be kind of a streaky guy. He gets a lot of these in bunches, but he's going now on basically 2 solid weeks where he's been hitting everything, which he's not usually that consistent when he gets streaky, but he's been one of the toughest outs in baseball so far, and many of those home runs have come in, late in games when scores are close. These are not like, they're up 10-2 and he's dropping a ball on the upper deck. Like he's hitting home runs that actually matter, and a bunch of them.
Yeah. And I mean, it is kind of pick your poison with that lineup, right? I mean, you're protected with, McNeil, who gets on base, seems like every time he's at the plate. You got Lindor, who's swinging, and you have protection around that. It's like, all right, I guess we have to pitch to this guy, and he's going to make us pay. There's really no way around it.
Yeah, and that Mets pitching has given up quite a few runs this year too, which is, I think, a surprise to some of us because of all the arms they do have and the depth they have.
Yeah.
And a guy like Pete's been trying to carry some of that load in some of these higher scoring close games when they needed those extra couple of runs to get over the hump.
Absolutely. And now, since we're talking about bombs, Seattle Mariners outfielder Jared Kelenic hits one 482 feet at Wrigley Field into the upper deck of the center field bleacher section. I mean, if you're sitting up there in the bleachers, you're like, yeah, there's no way I'm getting a ball today. And
right.
what comes to you.
The ballpark.
432 foot. It was an absolute tank. That thing was crushed.
I've probably watched it 10 times just to just to see the ball. I've never seen the ball
Easy.
there before.
And the pitch wasn't even like middle either. Like it
No.
was down and away a little bit, and he just absolutely dropped the hammer on it. And it was quite impressive.
And that was his third of the year, and he had hit a couple before that were also not cheap.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that was the prize piece of that trade several years back and had never really panned out. And if he's going to hit like this year, then Seattle's going to be very happy to have made that trade, that Robbie Cano trade. But it's been nice to see him healthy and flashing some power because he was a really, really highly rated prospect a few years back.
Yeah, he struggled last year. I think they sent him
Big time.
down a couple times and they tried to bring him back up. He just couldn't have it. So hopefully he does find it and he contributes to that Mariners team. That's fun to watch. Those guys.
Yeah.
I try to tune in on them every time I can, but
yeah, those guys are flying around the field. They're stealing bases. They're hitting and running. They're hitting for power. They do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. This one is kind of an embarrassing look for the MLB, I believe. Cody Bellinger goes back to the Los Angeles Dodgers for his first return to Dodger Stadium, and he gets a standing ovation, and the crowd's going nuts. They're welcoming him back. I can't even talk tonight.
Yeah.
And the umpire then calls him for a pitch clock violation.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Way to ruin the moment.
Dude.
Yeah. Way to ruin the moment, MLB.
So, I mean, if I'm the umpire, like, I get it. Like, the guys on deck, they have like 25 or 30 seconds between batters that they have to be in there.
Yep.
Like, I get all that. So, okay,
Yep.
The out's made. He hits the clock. He starts the timer and then realizes what's going on, right? And he's like, oh crap, now what do I do? I'm pretty sure they either have a cancel button or like a button where it says, okay, the pitch has been thrown.
Yep.
And just stop the clock. Like, let him take in the moment. Like, are you telling me that when, I don't know, Nelson Cruz hits number, 2,500 and they stop the game, get the ball, like the next batter is like, all right, yep, pitch clock violation, strike one to the next hitter? Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You got to let those moments breathe and have their moment.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about the pitch clock that we were all worried about is what's that going to be like in tense moments or big moments. And we saw one already with a nice moment. Cody Bellinger coming back to LA. Fans give him a nice warm welcome. He's trying to absorb it for a minute. You can't give the guy a couple of seconds. I mean, and he was in the box. Like he didn't have his head up at the pitcher when they called the violation. You're talking like give the guy a 2-second break and everything's fine. But instead the umpire calls the pitch clock violation, ruins the moment, gets booed by the fans. And even the Dodgers announcer's like, you have to be kidding me. Like you can't let this guy have this moment. It was just a bad look for MLB to call a pitch clock violation when that's going on.
I mean, I get it. They're trying to set a precedent, but I mean, like that was brutal. And if you watch the video clip, it's just like it was a nice moment for Bellinger, and of course he's going to take it in, and just absolutely ruined. Yep, sorry, dude. Nice ovation, but that's strike one.
It's brutal. It's just brutal to see that happen. I was watching the game and I'm like, you have to be kidding.
Yeah. And then the last thing I have for leading off, this is actually pretty funny, and I really, really hope it happens. Report came through today that the A's fans, the Oakland Athletic fans, are trying to coordinate a reverse boycott. So they're trying to get a sellout on June 13th, and they're trying to pack the entire stadium for one game. I think it would be hilarious to see Oakland Coliseum absolutely packed for one game, and then the next day it's like back to their 24 fans.
Yeah,
like,
now would they get credit for setting like a AAA attendance record by having that many people to watch a bunch of AAA players?
I would absolutely imagine.
So,
hey, Tony Kemp's
count?
still on that team, buddy.
Well, this is one of those chicken or the egg arguments. Like the team stinks and nobody goes. But if people went with the team stink, it's one of the. I don't know how you solve Oakland. That it's never been a great market. When the team was good, the market's been good.
Right.
when they won 20, was it 20 in a row or 22 in a row, whatever the hell that win streak they ran off, that place was packed and electric every night. When they were really good back in the 80s and 90s, that place was packed. But
Yeah.
the minute they fell off a little bit, the attendance completely just dropped off. So if people went, would the team be better? I don't know. I don't know if that's an ownership problem or if it's an attendance problem or a combination of both. But it's a shame to see a Major League Baseball team fall so far and have a fan base that hates it so much that they feel like they have to move.
Yeah, I mean, and the fans want to make the statement that, like, hey, the market's here. We just want you guys to do something.
Yeah, just don't stink.
Like, and that's the purpose of the boycott, is to be like, hey, these are all the fans that want to support you guys, but you're not doing anything. You're not putting a product on the field. Like, not even remotely. I can name 2 players on the Oakland Athletics right now. James Caprielin and Tony Kemp. That's it. I can't name anybody else on the Oakland Athletics.
If you stop me on the sidewalk and ask me to name an Oakland A, or you're going to steal my wallet, I'd just give my wallet. I don't think I could have named anybody on that team.
Yeah. And that's what the fans are talking about. So they want to prove to not only ownership, but to MLB that, like, hey, we need a new stadium. We need this organization to put a product on the field that we can support. We can't support what they're doing right now. So that's what the purpose of the reverse boycott is, to be like, hey, we're here. We don't want you guys to move, but you got to do something.
Yep.
And I kind of agree with that. It seems like, I mean, we're going to mention it a little bit later, but there is a second team that is in on an expansion team. So we've mentioned the Nashville Stars, and it looks like Salt Lake City is going to be an expansion team. So, or possibly they're in the early stages of it. So the Oakland fans were like, hey, we want to keep the team here. We don't want you guys to move to Vegas. And that's the purpose of this whole boycott thing. So, I mean, I want to see it. I have June 13th on my calendar because I want to tune into that Oakland A's game, and I hope that the last seat in the center field upper deck is absolutely taken over.
I would love to see it.
I want to see that thing packed.
But that Oakland team's given up 125 runs so far this year, which is like 28 more than the next closest team to them. They are wretched to watch. Clearly the worst team in baseball. And I don't blame people for not wanting to go watch that. I would not pay money to go watch that team play.
No way.
They're atrocious.
Absolutely not. You couldn't give me a free ticket.
No, it's not worth going into the ballpark to watch that team be that wretched. Unless like the Yankees are coming to town or the Angels are coming to town, you want to go see like Ohtani or something like that. Unless there's a draw on the other side, there's no point in going to that ballpark.
Absolutely not. I agree. But all right, let's get into the favorite matchups of the last week. So the 5th inning favorite series of last week. What do you got? What were some of the series that you liked?
I really enjoyed watching the Rangers and Astros. I think that I really liked that Rangers team last year. I thought they made enough progress to maybe make a run at the playoffs. They weren't quite ready. This year they went out and got the pitching. DeGrom didn't even pitch in this series, if I remember correctly. They took 2 out of 3 from Houston. The Rangers, they score, they run, they pitch enough. I would say their pitching's still not stellar, but their pitching is good. And 2 out of 3 from Houston in a pretty impressive manner. It was fun to watch, good baseball. And that Rangers team under Bruce Bochy, they are disciplined, they are fun, and they move. They move freely.
Yeah. I don't think Bruce Bochy would have came back unless it was for a team that could contend.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, the Rangers are going to be there. I really do think that they're here to stay. I mean, barring 4 or 5 injuries. Corey Seager is on the shelf for a little bit.
Yep.
But I mean, it's not a terrible injury.
No.
So, I mean, he wouldn't have just come back for any team.
No, not at the point in his career he's at. And,
Right.
Semien looks like himself again. They're getting contributions up and down that lineup. There was it was really cool. I want to say it was yesterday's game. They interviewed Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker beforehand. They were kind of swapping stories about their long careers in baseball, and just kind of cool to hear a couple of guys that have been around for a long time, seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bruce Bochy came back because he's got a lot of belief in this organization, what that roster's made up of, and that the opportunities got in front of him. And it's a fun team to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the series just ended today, but Red Sox Angels, obviously, we tuned into. As much as I hate the Red Sox City Connect jerseys, I understand. We've talked about it before. Like, I understand the meaning behind them, and I think it's amazing. It's the 10-year anniversary.
Yep.
Like, I get the significance of them. And the Red Sox don't lose when they wear them.
They don't.
They just don't. So let's just get rid of the red and white and just make their colors blue and yellow. I mean, at this point, all 3 games that they wore the City Connects, they won, and then they wore their white homes today, and they didn't. They gave up 5 runs in the first, and then they can't come back from it.
Yeah, the
Today
Red Sox
was weird. They were rain delay, then had an inning
Yeah.
and a half, another rain delay. It was a messy game, but
Yeah, the Red Sox are now, from what I'm seeing, they're now 17-4 all time in their yellow City Connect jerseys.
say 17-4.
17-4.
Yeah. Now just wear them every day. Like, get rid of the red and white. We're good with that.
Yeah, all time they're 17-4 in the City Connect jerseys.
That's crazy. I wonder
It is
how
crazy.
the other teams are in them too.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see like which teams are better or worse in their jerseys. But yeah, to be 17-4 in that yellow jersey, I'm not a big fan of the jersey either, but something about it works.
Yeah. I'll take 17-4 in a 20-game stretch anytime, like that for sure.
Yeah.
The other series I tuned into here and there, I don't ask me why, but it was the Blue Jays Tigers. And I was watching the I forget what it's called. It's like the Big Inning on MLB TV, where they just kind of go through the games.
Oh yeah.
And it was one of the last games. It's kind of like NFL Red Zone, but it's for baseball, which is really cool. But they kept going back to the end of the Blue Jays Tigers. So they're tied. They go to the 10th inning. The Tigers don't score in the top of the 10th. So Kevin Kiermaier comes up and he bunts down the third baseline. To move the runner to third base, they throw Kiermaier out first. So you have 1 out, man on third. The Tigers then decided to pitch to George Springer, and he hits a little trickler up the middle, and the game's over, walks it off. Now, we talked about this on a podcast about the extra inning rules, about the runner on second and playing small ball like that. And this is a scenario Sean brought up the other night, was like, that's cool, you bunt him to third, but now you just walk the next guy, and now you get a double play, and you're out of the inning.
Right.
Like, why didn't the Tigers do that? Instead, they decided to bring the infield in, and he literally hits like a 24-mile-an-hour trickler past the pitcher for a game-winning single. And
yeah,
I mean, and then after I watched the game, I was like, you know what? It's the Tigers. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the Tigers. I mean, sadly, I would expect the Tigers to do something stupid like that. And yeah, granted, standing behind him in the on-deck circle is probably somebody like Vlad or Bo Bichette or somebody. So, you're not exactly going against like some slouch in the 9-hole, but still, if you've got a chance to get a double play there and let the infield take a couple steps back and get some range, that makes a huge difference in what they can do with a ball that's hit.
Absolutely. You have to, right? Like that's not even like a baseball move right there to just bring the infield in the extra innings. Like you have to make that move. You have to take that chance.
Right.
He hits a 3-run bomb. He hits a 3-run bomb. But like you got to give yourself a chance to win.
Yep.
There's too many scenarios for the batter with 1 out, a runner on third, for him to win the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. You got to put him on first base and take your chance with a slider on the outside corner that Guerrero rolls over into a double play.
Yeah, and at least
you just have to take that.
Let your middle infielders go back to double play depth. So they get a few steps, they get a little bit of range, and the ball that was hit would have been fielded. But it's you have to manage extra innings differently with that guy starting off on second base. And I think there are some managers that you see who are really good as kind of the tacticians of the game, and others who are just kind of on the bench filling out a lineup card, waiting to see what happens. And if Sean was here, he'd say Aaron Boone's a terrible manager,
right?
And he's probably right. But
so,
you got to handle the situation better than that. And what kills me too is this is AJ Hinch is a manager of the Tigers. Now, before the whole cheating scandal went down, he was considered one of the best managers in baseball, and he was clearly asleep behind the wheel in this one.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing at all. Like that scenario just blew my mind, and I was just like, I don't get it. But
what was interesting too is same series, you got AJ Hinch actually pulling Javi Baez off the field at the end of the inning for not knowing how many outs there were.
right,
And this team, I mean, I said a week or two ago, the Detroit Tigers are wretched. That roster is atrocious. Javi Baez is the most overpaid, flashy, do almost the bare minimum kind of player. But now he can't remember the outs. You got bad calls in the 10th inning. Like, this is spooling up to be a really bad season for them. It's not just that the players aren't good. The manager's not good. The team's not good. The front office isn't good. It is a hot mess in Detroit.
they are checked out, and it's week 3.
They know they're going nowhere. They're already wondering about the offseason. There's no energy, there's no enthusiasm. AJ Hinch looks like he's asleep at the wheel on that. And, finally he pulled Baez aside and sat him, but that was after probably 2 or 3 situations where he should have done it before. Baez not running balls out. It's embarrassing. That team's embarrassing from the front office all the way down to the players.
Yep. Let's go to the Tampa Bay Rays. So they're starting to, they're starting to play some decent teams, right? They're not playing the bottom tier teams. Listen, their run differential is still absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Plus 72. I mean, what did you say? Was it 14 teams?
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays run differential is more runs than 11 other teams have scored.
11.
So they've won by more runs than 11 other teams have scored.
Yeah.
It's frightening.
I mean, they obviously weren't going 162-0. I mean, let's be honest. However,
I'm pretty sure Sean Tidwell or somebody called 161-1 on the Facebook page, and I was going with it.
Yeah, but they did lose their second.
They did. They lost 2 in a row, and I sent you guys a message kind of joking that, they lost 2 in a row, come back to earth, season's toast, this team's overrated.
Yeah.
They go out and win the next night. I'm actually watching that game right now. They're actually losing 4-0 to the Reds in the bottom of the 6th, but they're so good. They're so well-rounded.
They are.
And I don't know where all these young freaking pitchers come from, but I wish that they'd share some.
It's crazy. It just seems like year after year, they're like, oh, another pitching prospect. Oh, look at this guy. He throws 108 from the left side. Like, yeah. I mean, like, where do they find, like, their scouting department's got to be, I don't know where they're going, but I'm going to start following them around.
No, I mean, it's the Rays minor league development system, whatever they do down there, is so good. It's almost embarrassing to the league. They figured something out. And, one of the things is not only do they make trades and they get players that are like wicked young, like they're not trading for AAA major league ready guys. They're getting like a stockpile of single A prospects.
Yeah.
And then they draft well, they develop well. They've picked up players in Rule 5 drafts, like you name it, international pools. Like they go and find all these bargain basement players that end up being absolute studs.
Yeah. Was it last year that they were the first team ever to start an all Latin American lineup, right? I'm pretty sure it was the Rays ever to do that. So, I mean, their international scouts are good. Like they got their hands in everything. Yep. And like you said, their development program is just out of control. That's the only thing I can think of.
So. And they benefit from the fact that a lot of these teams like like the Yankees and the Mets and the Astros and all that, although the Astros have had some pretty good luck with young players of late, but a lot of these teams, they want to just go sign and trade for big league talent.
Yep.
And they will dump as many prospects as possible because they just don't value them. And the Rays will take as many prospects as they can get, knowing that maybe 1 in 10 turns into something, but they just stockpile the system with arms and bats and figure it out.
And not only that, is they're so impressive of when they get rid of these guys, right?
Oh yeah.
Look at Evan Longoria, right?
Yep.
They moved him to San Francisco, and they're like, thanks for all you did here, but your time's up. And did you hear about Evan Longoria again? No.
Blake, no, he went to San Francisco and basically fell off the map.
Right. Blake Snell has been an absolute shell of himself ever since Kevin Cash went and got him in the World Series.
Yep.
In 2020, Blake Snell hasn't found it. Yes, he has some good outings here and there, but he's not the pitcher he was in Tampa.
No. They did it with Carl Crawford and Julio Lugo, and you can just
Yeah.
keep naming guys that they basically let go right when they fell off. They
Yeah.
had them for their best years and then let them go. And I, I don't know. There's something about the way that team does things, and the Red Sox are hoping Heim Bloom's going to bring some of that to Boston. But man, oh man, they just continue. It's foolish how much young talent they develop.
So we kind of had this debate on our page earlier this week. Is it Heim Bloom in the development, or is it the minor leagues and the scouts? What side are you on? And don't cop out and say it's a combination of both.
Well, no, I was going to say, honestly, you need all of it. But ultimately, it is the role of the GM to set the criteria and the direction of that whole group.
Okay,
and
fair.
and when you look at Tampa, Andrew Friedman and Heim Bloom were a two-headed monster down there. They developed the criteria for scouting and development and international pools and all this stuff. Like, they built out the program, found exceptionally good scouts, and sent them out there. Friedman went to LA, and I don't even know if the Dodgers draft anymore. I think they just trade for people and sign huge contracts.
Pretty sure.
And Heim Bloom came to Boston to try to implement the same thing. Now, granted, you can't change an entire organizational philosophy and all the people in a year or two or three. It takes time. Heim Bloom was in Tampa in 2005. That team was terrible for 5 or 6 years, and then have been good consistently ever since. So I feel like as Red Sox fans, we're expecting him to just like show up and boom, this team's winning a World Series because he's waved his magic wand. It's a process to retool the minor league system. And when he came here, the Red Sox minor league system was dead last. It's now considered 10th as of this season. So that's progress.
Yeah.
But those players are still a couple of years away.
Yeah. And like you said, it's hard as a Red Sox fan that has had success here, this century, 3 World Series in the last 20 years. Like, we get it. But like, if you want sustained success
like Tampa,
then you gotta let this guy do it. If by year 6, year 7, we're still, a record like 6-9, like we're not even close to 500, then yeah, get rid of him. Like, I totally agree. But
yeah, you don't change your organization overnight. That's a process.
No, and you made this point where the Red Sox have 40 years of history at this point. The Rays have what, 25?
Right. Yeah.
So
changing not nearly as much.
Like you said, changing a whole entire organizational approach takes time. And with the Tampa Bay Rays maybe not even being fully developed in that at the time Heim Bloom took over, that actually helped him because he didn't have to retool anything. He just built it.
Right.
Because the Red Sox, you have to tear it down and build it back up.
Right. Because when he came there in 2005, that team was a mess. And it was basically they were in the process of trying to find their way. It's only been around for 7 years.
Yeah.
And then you look at follow Dave Dombrowski's career. Everywhere that guy has left, he's left a team that was a mess for years. Right. Detroit, Boston. Every time he's left, he's basically gutted the system to win right now, and then he walks out the door as the fire smolds because he doesn't want to deal with it. Because he's there to win, and then he gets out of town. So the fire smoldering, and he just kind of drops the keys and walks out the door. But he got his World Series ring.
Yep.
And that's his MO. The same thing's going to happen in Philadelphia in a few years. Those contracts are going to become unmanageable. And some of those guys will leave, and that team will be a hot mess because that's the path of Dave Dombrowski's career. So not only did Heim Bloom come into an organization that basically was void of any real talent and had a bunch of bad contracts.
They were only 7 years old by the time Heim Bloom came in. Yeah. They were established in 98.
Right. So Wade Boggs and Fred McGriff had just retired a few years before that. Right. That's how far back we gotta go. We gotta go with the Rays. But he came into Boston with nothing. That roster was a mess. You had a bunch of big bad contracts. He had to come in and deal with issues. Let's break the Mookie Betts trade down for a minute. The Red Sox traded Betts and David Price to the Dodgers for a pile of prospects. One of those, and Alex Verdugo, has worked out. Alex Verdugo is I would say, an above average major league outfielder.
Agree.
Connor Wong, not sure yet. Jeter Downs, he's ended as a bust, but many of them do. But the Red Sox were trading from a position of no leverage. Mookie Betts, the world knew Mookie Betts wasn't staying. He was leaving. There's only a few teams that were going to be able to sign him, and they wanted to dump David Price's terrible contract in the process. So are
Yeah.
you going to get a massive haul of prospects for that? Hell no. You're lucky you got anything for it.
Right.
But so yes, did you turned Mookie Betts and David Price and Alex Verdugo? Man, that trade sucks. But at the same time, you dumped $100 million of David Price's contract off on them. Where did David Price go? He pitched one more season and then he was
In the
gone. And he
bullpen.
pitched out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
So there you talk about, getting rid of a player when he was falling apart. That's what Heim did. Career's over, get out. And David Price was really never heard from again.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts. But they got what they could for him in the time. So I think there's people that expected them to have some massive haul of top tier prospects in the Mookie Betts trade. They were lucky they got anything because they were trading from a position of desperation and no leverage.
Yeah. And then this is the situation we kind of were talking about it again on our Facebook thread. The whole Xander Bogaerts debacle.
Mm.
I mean, I would say, how much of a chance do you think we had of actually signing Xander Bogaerts to an extension?
Oh, I was saying from the beginning of the season, it was probably 0, but in reality, I don't know, 15, 20%.
I mean, the St. Louis Cardinals were begging for a shortstop at the deadline. Begging for a short. Paul DeJong was hitting like 0.82. Like they didn't. Edmundo Sosa, whoever that is,
Right, they were struggling.
Was hitting a terrible. You got to get something back for Xander Bogaerts because the free agent compensation's gone. So you literally just let a top tier shortstop walk for nothing.
Yep.
And I mean, yeah, the Cardinals might not have given us Jordan Walker, but I mean, heck,
right?
If he could have been part of that deal, yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that one they blew. I feel like they blew that one because, as we were saying, if you're not going to sign him, trade him, get something for him. Even if you get a bag of balls, it's better than the nothing you get when he walks away. And he walked away, and his market got insane fast. But I think the Red Sox knew they weren't going to match his price. They were going to give him a higher average annual value, a shorter contract, and he was going to take a longer contract somewhere else. And everybody probably saw that as it was going to play out that way. But to get nothing for him and let him walk was a mistake, unless they really did think they had a shot to sign him, or what they were getting offered just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, man, it's just the negotiations throughout the year was just like not promising. They were miles apart. And at that point, even if it is, I don't care if it's a 35% to 40% chance, do you take that gamble? When you're seeing Juan Soto get 4 prospects, right. You're seeing Luis Castillo get 4 prospects, you're seeing all these big names get 4 prospects back. Why would you take that chance? Like you said, even if one of them hits, right. You still take that chance. At least you're getting something.
And part of the argument to trading is that, it's very rare that you're going to trade a guy like Xander Bogaerts and get back 3 guys that end up being studs.
Right.
You're going to get back one guy who probably makes it to the show, one guy who's in AAA for a long time, one guy that never makes it any farther than he is right now. The number of prospects that actually reach the major leagues is incredibly low. So you've got to do what the Rays do, and you've got to stockpile them. You have to bring in 20, 30, 40 young guys, every single year and continue to just cycle them through. And it's the old rank and yank methodology. If you're not moving up, you're moving out. And that's what the Rays do. They shuttle young players in and out all the time based on, performance and metrics and all this stuff. So you've got to deal a guy like Xander there. You've got to get back 2 or 3 players in exchange. Hope that one of them turns into something because a lot of that's a crapshoot. And then you feel good about that trade. But to get nothing for him and no chance of getting anything I think that was a huge mistake on the Red Sox part to not get something.
Yeah, you absolutely have to in that scenario. And I think blew it there. But you know what? I'm obviously invested in the Red Sox. They're my team. I'm gonna, stick it out for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
The extension of Devers helps stomach it quite a bit.
Yep.
Because we said, man, if they don't extend this guy,
right,
what are we doing? And out of Xander or Rafi, I'm taking Rafi 100 times out of 100.
100%. And somebody made a good point. I can't remember who it was, that a lot of that Xander situation might have just been optics for the fans. they may have known they weren't going to re-sign him. They may have known trading him midseason would have been rough for the fan base. And they have said, look, we're going to lose this one to try to, appease the fans for the rest of the season and show that we made an effort. Also change the narrative, make Xander look like a bad guy, whatever. There could have been some optics that played into that as to how they handled it, but at least in the end, they signed Raffy, so it wasn't a total loss, but it was still an odd situation.
As a diehard fan, I don't want that. I don't want you feeding me a bunch of bull.
Yeah, but
I get it.
We know that.
I get
the average fan, the average fan wouldn't know, but yeah, you're right.
Right. I totally get what you're saying, but all right, off our Red Sox wagon for a little bit here. Let's go over matchups for the next week here, 7th inning here. Twins come into town for the Red Sox. Let's see if Byron Buxton hits another one off the wall, slides in a second, and is done for the year. So
I know
he doesn't do well with Fenway. Seems like every time he comes, he gets hurt. So
yeah,
we'll see. But I mean, let's see how the Red Sox can handle that Twins pitching staff. Sonny Gray's pitching out of his mind. Pablo Lopez. He has like a 0.5 ERA right now. He's like
he's been really good to start the year.
Yep. I mean, Pablo Lopez is there. I mean, the Twins are and their lineup's pretty good too. I mean,
yeah.
We will see. So I think the Red Sox probably lose 5 out of 3 in that series, probably.
Yeah, and we got a few good series here off the bat. So you've got the Angels in New York against the Yankees. It's a good chance to see kind of where the Angels actually stack up. Yep. They're 8-8. They've been a little sneaky. They just lost 3 out of 4 to the Red Sox. After coming off a couple of series wins before that. So the Angels are a team that we're still trying to figure out who they are. So it'll be interesting to see them against the Yankees, see where they're at. Blue Jays, Astros, those are two teams that are – the Astros seem a little lost right now. The Blue Jays are picking up some steam, so it should be a good matchup.
Yeah.
Braves, Padres. The Padres are a team that hasn't really yet hit its stride. And honestly, we were talking about this before we went on the air. I don't find the Padres to be an exceptionally fun team to watch. They play a very boring brand of baseball with all those personalities. Yeah, they're colorful at times, but they're quiet. They don't move around a lot. There's not a lot of stolen bases, hitting and running, a lot of action. It's just kind of stand up there, swing, hit, stand up there, swing, hit. I've not enjoyed watching them, which I was surprised by. And then lastly, you got Mets and Dodgers. That'll be a good one because the Dodgers, I think, are a team that we're all expecting to take a step back. Be a good chance here early in the season to see what they do against the Mets.
Yeah. I think everything you said, obviously, the Angels, Yankees, just for the benchmark for the Angels to see if they are, pretenders or contenders. I know it's week 3. I get it. But the Angels kind of wasting Shohei Ohtani on the Red Sox today for 2 innings. I wonder, he probably won't pitch in New York, which is fine, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the Angels are that great tragedy of baseball. You got 2 of the 3 best players in all of baseball on the same team, and they just can't put it together.
I don't get it either.
It's sad.
The Diamondbacks and Cardinals. So when we get to it, the Diamondbacks are kind of my biggest surprise right now so far. But I think that's kind of a good benchmark for the Diamondbacks. If they go in and take business, listen, the Cardinals are scuffling. They're not the Cardinals team that we've seen, in years past. They're off to a tough start. But they're still the Cardinals.
They are.
They're going to come out of that. They're going to be at the top of the division. I'm not worried about the Cardinals, but I want to see if the Diamondbacks can keep it rolling here.
Yeah, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. That Cardinals team lost a lot of veteran leadership in Pujols and Yachty. They brought in some young players. They brought in some new faces. That team is definitely going through a pretty big transition. And Marmol's been a little bit volatile lately. He called somebody else out again the other day. I feel like that team's on the verge of either working through this and pulling together and coming out of it okay, or just imploding. Because it's not a good sign when 3 weeks into the season, the manager's calling out, multiple players for performance issues or attitude issues, publicly. Usually would handle that in the clubhouse and I don't know. You've got a young manager who just lost veteran leaders. This may be him getting exposed, or it may just be him finding his way.
Or a combination of both, for
Yeah,
sure.
or a combination of both. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I think it's him trying to find where he fits in, which is weird because he's been with the club for 3 years, 2 or 3 years now.
Right. He's not the
But
new guy.
right, but like you said, he hasn't had to really take that leadership role yet because Yachty did it, and Wainwright is there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
still,
and Pujols and
is there. Like he didn't really have to manage that because the team almost managed itself.
you had 3 managers in the clubhouse. Like
Right.
I feel like
And yeah.
Marmol just had to fill the lineup card, and they took care of themselves.
And you have Arenado and Goldschmidt, who are also the ultimate professionals, right? That are also going to be natural leaders in that clubhouse. So you have 6 guys that can do your job for you. Why step on their toes?
Exactly.
And now that those guys are gone, they're looking to someone for leadership, and you're like, oh shit, what do I do?
Yeah, right.
And now you're calling everybody out in week 3 when you're 7-9, like you're not even like out of it. Like,
right.
I mean, it's just a weird way to go at it.
They've not played well, that's for sure, but they've not been terrible.
Right. They're just middle of the road right now.
Like if I'm the Philadelphia Phillies, they've been terrible.
Yep.
Like that team has been outscored by a lot of runs, a lot of ugly games for them. Like if I'm the manager of the Phillies, I'm more worried about them than the Cardinals.
Agree. Yeah, so I mean, I like this Diamondbacks team. They're young, they're exciting to watch. They're fast. Corbin Carroll's ridiculous. Ketel Marte is ridiculous. And there's some guys in that lineup that people necessarily haven't heard of because A, they're hidden in Arizona.
Yep.
Or B, they're new. They've been traded. Because when Dalton Varsho went to Toronto, they got Miguel Montero, a catcher. They got somebody else in that deal too. I can't remember, but they're young, they're good. So I just want to see if the Diamondbacks can sustain it, and I think the Cardinals are a good benchmark, and they've held their own against the NL West at this point. So
they have, and with that, we might as well just segue right into the biggest surprises and keep going. But I think I've said it a couple of times. I know that you and Sean have both said it too. We all love Torey Lovullo, what that guy can do for a team, what he did for the Red Sox when he was there. He's a great baseball guy. And it's nice to finally see some talent on that team. Carroll's a monster. Ketel Marte is finally getting the attention he hasn't gotten in so long. Zach, player of the week Zach Gallen was one of the players of the week this week. Like that is a young, talented team. And a guy like Lovullo can actually, manage a game now because he's got some talent out there on the field.
Right.
It's nice to see them finally be good because I think the world of Torey Lovullo and think that he deserves a chance to manage a roster that doesn't stink.
Yeah. I want to see baseball shift. Like, listen, I love my Red Sox, like I said, but
sure.
I hate that year after year it's Boston, it's New York, it's Houston, it's Minnesota. Then in the NL, it's New York, it's Atlanta, it's St. Louis, it's the Dodgers. Like, I like the NFL because there is parity.
Right.
Like they have, yes, it's only 17 games, whatever. This is 162. So mostly the better teams are going to come to the top. They're going to rise to the top. I get that. But like, I love seeing teams that we haven't seen in the play. The Mariners, rooting for the Mariners like that. The Guardians last year was a great story. I love stuff like that. The teams that haven't been there in a while that are finally competing, like I love it. And I hope the Diamondbacks keep trending. I hope the Rangers get there. And then, and you might kill me for this, but the Marlins, I know I've been high on them, but they're kind of sitting on the fence right now. They could either just absolutely swirl and go down the tubes, or they can stay competitive with this balanced schedule and fight for a wild card spot. They have the pitching to do it. They have the bats to do it. They have some veteran players on that lineup. Joey Wendell, Luis Arraez, Yuli Gurriel. Like he's just 2 years away from a batting title. I mean, they have some bats that can do it. Can they string it together? I don't know. It's the Marlins.
But the Marlins are one of the biggest beneficiaries of that balanced schedule because they get out of the NL East for a little while, and
Yes.
that's going to help them because they have consistently been held down by division with at most usually at least 2, if not 3 heavyweights in it.
Right. You're going to play the Mets 20 times. You got to play the Phillies 20 times. You got to play the Braves 20 times.
Yeah, and
And
a
you're
couple
only
years
getting
ago,
some of those games back with the Nationals. That's it.
yeah, a couple years ago it was really just the Mets and Braves, and the Phillies got good, and now you got 3 of them that are just like pounding on that division, and it's hard to be the Marlins.
Yep, agree. So, but my biggest surprise so far, I'm just gonna kind of bring it back. Jacob deGrom exit early. That's cool. Wrist soreness after 4 no-hit innings. Anyways,
I love how you're just like, yep, okay.
That's not my biggest surprise.
That checks out. Jacob deGrom it's April and he's hurt. Perfect. Okay.
Oh my god! But the Diamondbacks are right now they're first place in the NL West. Haven't been able to say that since the Randy Johnson era. So
I was just gonna say it's been a while. 2003 was that when they won?
I think right now they're my biggest surprise so far for sure.
Yeah, was Arizona 03 or 01?
01.
01.
Luis
right.
Gonzalez walk-off, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the last time anybody cared about the Arizona Diamondbacks.
You're right.
But they are talent-wise, they are loaded.
Yeah. What's your biggest surprise?
So my biggest surprise, I'm actually going the other direction. My biggest surprise has been the Astros and Phillies. Your World Series teams from last year have opened up this season. Rosters largely intact. You could argue that they got better in the offseason. Phillies for sure by adding Trey Turner and continuing to add pieces to that bullpen. I would say the Astros didn't get worse. You lost Verlander, but you picked up Abreu and some trading places in there, but and neither one of them looks good. They both look. Those teams look lost, and maybe it's because you got some new faces you're trying to sort in. Maybe it's just been the start of the season's been a little off for them, but the Phillies have been really bad. They're 6-10. They've been outscored by a bunch, and night to night they just don't look good. The Astros have been streaky. They're good for a few games. They look crappy again. They just haven't been able to string it together consistently. They've had some guys get off to slower starts. I know the Jose Abreu is trying to kind of find his rhythm. Jeremy Pena is trying to find his place now that he's not a surprise anymore. It's I don't know. It's been weird. I feel like those teams are way too good to be playing like they are, but you continue to go another week by and they're still not figuring it out, and it's surprising to see those two teams playing what I would consider to be such poor baseball for the quality of that roster.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and we have people on that answer this question on our Facebook page. Jim Britt says the Phillies sucking is his biggest surprise.
And they've not been good. I mean, they are. I mean, honestly, last year I ragged on them all year for their defense. They could not catch the ball. Right now, they can't catch it, throw it. Most nights they can't hit it. The other nights they can't pitch it.
Yeah, and I mean, that Texas series to open up the season, was pretty ugly for them. Like it wasn't even competitive, really.
No.
Well,
and
that's
the Astros. The Astros just lost 2 out of 3 to the Rangers too, and one of those games was like a 9-1 beatdown. So, kudos to the Rangers. They've stuck it to both of those teams, but it's also a testament to where those 2 other teams are because they didn't lose games like that last year.
Right.
So, but the one surprise I'll add, Nick, kind of a general surprise is that, put the pitch clock aside. This is nothing but the pitch clock. This has been probably the funnest 3 weeks of baseball I've watched in a long, long time. You've got a lot of young teams on the rise. You've got a lot of teams that are, I feel like you've got, it's not just the same handful. To your point, you've got some teams that are playing well in the early goings here. It's been entertaining baseball. I've loved watching the Orioles and the Pirates I'm watching the Reds and the Rays right now. The Reds are up 6-0 now on the Rays. There are some of these teams that were kind of the doormats for years are on the way up. And I feel like the quality of baseball has been really, really good so far in this April.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with you. Like every game has there's something different in it. There's something, like you're seeing more active games, and they are. I'm wondering, is it the pitch clock? Is it because I can see 3 games a night and still go to bed and wake up in the morning?
Maybe I'm watching more because I can.
Right. Or it's like I watch one Red Sox game that takes 6.5 hours, and then I might go to work in the morning if, I can get
Yeah.
my ass out of bed. But, like, I don't know if it's because I've been seeing more baseball or this balanced schedule. We're seeing matchups that we normally don't see that's also adding to the excitement of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that plays into it too. I mean, Rays and Reds, like you're like, okay, that matchup doesn't seem that exciting, but like, when does the Tampa Bay Rays play the Cincinnati Reds? Like,
Right.
it's not their year for interleague, so you're never going to see that matchup. Now you're going to see them play all the other 29 teams, and I think that's also adding to the excitement with all the changes they've made.
Yep.
And we've brought it up, like the players seem to love it because they're on their feet hours less a week.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And I'm sure that's going to help with injuries down the road.
Unless you're Jacob
Pitchers, I'm
DeGrom.
not so sure. Pitchers, I think we could see possibly hit a wall at the beginning of August, to be completely honest.
Yeah, because they're getting gassed. That pitch clock is making them work a little faster than they might want to, and you get deeper into games or longer pitch count innings, you can see them huffing and puffing a little.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see, like, when the dog days of summer rolls around, the newness of the pitch clock is worn off, and we're, like I said, in the dog days, if it's going to change, if it's still going to be exciting. Are the injuries going to increase at that point because now they've like pretty much max effort their arm in such a short window of time?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the season as a whole has been really exciting. And I think part of it too is there's still a little bit of the WBC hangover, right?
Could be, yeah.
The WBC was such a hit and everybody was tuned in all the way down to the last at bat, Trout versus Ohtani. I mean, it almost seemed like the country stopped during that at bat. Like it was awesome. No pitch clock, no nothing. Everybody was tuned in to see what would happen. And there's still a little bit of that hangover because every one of those games was incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a good way to get things started. But and also when you look at the standings, there are so many teams right now that are like right around 500.
Yep.
You've got a few teams that are like clearly above and beyond better, and a few teams that are clearly in the basement, in the toilet, Oakland. But I feel like you've got a lot more teams that are competitive in the early stretches than we usually see. Because usually you have those 6-8 teams that are already like, basically out of it by now.
Yeah. Some of the viewers have turned in their answers. They said, Randy Beard said, it's got to be the Tampa Bay Rays. I hate saying it, but they're just playing great ball. I mean,
good.
Even though they were bottom tier teams, you still expect them to lose a couple, right? I mean, there's still pro lineups other than the A's. There's still pro lineups. You expect, it's baseball. You expect to, like, any team can go and beat any team any day. You still got to go out and play the game.
Yep.
Nick Fanning says how great the Red Sox are. Can't believe it. Team of destiny. So I sense a little sarcasm there. Not much, but
only a little.
My God.
And this Reds team just like bang bang, single, triple, and it's 7-0 again.
Yeah.
They just get up there and hit.
Yep. Sean Tidwell says Rays mashing everyone.
Yeah.
And it was that the first 2 weeks they were just on another level.
Yeah, unreal.
It's something we haven't seen ever.
No, they're getting spanked around a little bit tonight though, so they're getting a little bit of their own medicine.
Yep, absolutely. But all right, we have quite a few things to cover here heading home, so we'll kind of run down this checklist here. Rangers dropped their City Connect jerseys today. I like them. I know some people are on the fence about them, and I don't know if I like them because they're in the top 3 of the best jerseys because the other ones are so terrible.
Or is it a low bar?
Or right, like I don't know if that's why I like them, or just because they are different. I mean, Craig Stevenson did say, and he brought it to my attention, like the font does look like the Rice University.
It does.
Symbol. I mean, could be paying homage to it. Rice is in Texas. Who knows? But
it's like if you take the Rice logo and the Spurs logo, like, and it had a baby. I feel like that's what you've got on that. I I don't get it. I thought they'd be able. I thought they'd do something with some of the history of Texas, and they're saying they did, but I don't get it. Like, I don't see where they did. I feel like that maybe they did a nice job of tying some stuff in. I just don't understand, or they need to explain it to me. But I look at those and I'm like, I don't get the logo. It looks like a beer league softball jersey to me with the big red number up on the chest. Like, nothing about it says Texas baseball.
you had two options: the Alamo and Chuck Norris, and you didn't do either one.
No, I mean, if you just had like a roundhouse kick on the front of that jersey, done. Best jersey ever.
I mean, come on.
Just put Chuck Norris's face on it.
You missed an opportunity.
Yeah, I don't get the jersey. Like, I don't understand it. I thought they'd be able to play off some history and make it really fun. Maybe they did, but I missed it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind them. I think they are a little plain. Like, it's just the emblem, just the number, and then nothing else.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. But I do like the hats. I do like the symbol on the hat. But the jerseys, I think, could have been a little bit more.
Yeah, and then the black pants, which is an interesting choice.
Yeah, in Texas when it's 150 degrees in the middle of the summer.
Well, they'll close that roof for those games anyways, but still, it's an interesting choice.
Yeah. Couple injuries here over the past week. Travis d'Arnaud suffered his 4th concussion, and they don't know when he's going to return. So
that's a lot for a baseball player.
It is a lot. And I mean, as a catcher, you're getting foul tips off the mast. You're getting, bats on the back of the head on the backswing. And the 4th concussion is nothing. 4th diagnosed concussion.
Right.
Like, that's the red flag there. Like, how many times did he get rocked before that, or like nicked that wasn't diagnosed? Like, I mean, I feel for the guy. I love Travis d'Arnaud. He's a great player when he's on.
Nothing was funnier than when he got hit by the pitch last year by the kid from the Reds, and he fell to the ground like he'd been shot.
D. Gordon. He got hit by D. Gordon.
Was that who it was? Yeah.
He was a
falls to the
position
ground like he's
player
been shot.
Yeah. Yeah, it came in at like 48 miles an hour, and he like hit the ground like he got shot. So funny.
I mean, such a character.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I hope to see him back on the field there. Marlins just walked off, it looks like. Oh no, they didn't walk off. They just won 4-3. They came back. Corey Seager's out 4 weeks with a hamstring, so it's kind of a little bit of a ding for the Rangers lineup. Also on the hamstring front, Giancarlo Stanton, surprise, surprise, is on the shelf for 4 to 6 weeks.
Wait, Stanton's hurt? That guy never gets hurt.
Right? I mean, Iron Man. But yeah, he's on the shelf 4 to 6 weeks. That's a grade 2 hamstring pull.
That's painful.
Jeffrey Springs, so the left-handed pitcher for the Rays, he's out 2 months with an elbow injury. So that's kind of a hit for the not so hot Rays now.
Yeah.
Jeez, and then this one was pretty. What'd you say?
They're going to be 14-3, man. Fallen.
Right. This one was pretty scary if you guys actually saw this. Kyle Farmer for the Twins got hit in the face again.
Oh, yeah.
Another hit by pitch in the face. And he needed surgery after that.
Yeah, that one was bad.
I'm starting to think that these cheekbone helmet they need to be almost mandatory for all the players now. These pitchers throw too hard with too much velocity for them not to put something there.
Yep.
I mean, look at Justin Turner in spring training.
Did you see his face after he got hit like that? The picture from that after he left the hospital. I mean, that was gnarly.
Yeah, it looks like the baseball's still in his cheek.
Oh yeah, and when you get swelling like that around like your eye and all those little bones that can get hit like that, you're messing with somebody's like permanent vision.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if the league or the CBA at some point here will make those mandatory. That's you lessen the gap between the brim and here. You're not going to get hit in the face unless unless
you turn into it.
Dude, I am. These guys are throwing 103.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to have time to recognize that. Oh, hey, it's coming at my face. I should probably move. Oh, too late. Like,
Yeah, blink of an eye, the whole thing's over.
yeah, man. So I think they need to be mandatory with the velocity that everybody is throwing with now.
Yep.
Every guy to the bullpen throws 100 plus. Heck, most of the starters are throwing 100 plus now. I think it's time. I mean,
Yeah, it's dangerous. The velocities these guys are at are just unreal.
yeah,
And the
I'm not
damage they
saying
do.
you have to go full softball cage,
Yeah,
but
no.
like put the cheek protector in for everybody.
At least prevent taking one right in the cheek.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple extensions here. Ian Happ extended his contract with the Cubs for 3 years, $61 million.
Yeah, good call from the Cubs extending him now.
Yeah, absolutely. Logan Webb for the Giants extended through 2028, $90
He's a
million
stud.
extension.
He's a stud.
Yep. This was actually pretty cool. Ji-Man Choi and Ji Hwan Bae for the Pirates are the first two Korean-born players to homer in the same game ever.
Huh. That's
So
cool.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And weird that it had never happened before. Like we've
Yeah.
had our fair share of Korean baseball players, and for that to be the first time that two have homered in the same game, I thought was pretty cool. This one, another really cool story. Bobby Witt Jr. fouled the ball off the other day, and his dad caught it.
Which is so cool.
Like, dude, you fouled one off. You have 30,000 fans. Well, maybe not 30,000.
If you're in Kansas City, you get like 3,000 fans.
Yeah, but still, like your dad caught a foul ball from your bat. Like it was pretty cool.
He should have thrown it back.
You're right. He's like, I got enough of these at home.
Yeah.
I don't need another stupid game ball.
Yeah, give it to some kid.
And then this one is just absolutely cold. I posted this on our Facebook page, or maybe it was my personal page. I can't remember. But when the Cubs face the Miami Marlins, April 28th to the 30th, they're having Steve Bartman Appreciation Day,
which is amazing.
Is so terrible, but that's the only reason the Marlins got to the 2003 World Series and then won it. But for them to do an Appreciation Day is pretty cold.
It's so epic. They really should be throwing the first pitch out to him when he's sitting in the seats hanging over the wall.
Oh my god, it's so bad but so funny at the same time. Like
it's epic.
I don't know if I feel bad for Bartman or it's absolutely hilarious or both. Like it was one of those things. I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. And then the last thing I have is Salt Lake City is putting together a team to hopefully expand. So we've reported before that the Nashville Stars are very serious. Like they're in the stages to get a team into Nashville. Salt Lake City has now put in a petition to get the ball rolling for them. And the comment thread was hilarious because they were like, well, what would they be called? And like some of them were just out of control. I'm not going to say them on the podcast.
The Storm and Mormons.
You can look at it if you want. But yeah, so that would put 16 teams in, on each side. And then you would probably end up like the NHL, right? 4 in the Northeast, 4 in the Southeast, like kind of like that.
Yeah, because they keep saying that with expansion they would have to do a full realignment. So you would change up all the divisions.
Yep. Would you even change up the leagues, maybe the AL and NL, or would you keep it?
They've not said much about what they would do, but there are rumors that they may consider changing the leagues too, and moving so it's more geographically tight. Who's in your division? But at the same time, if you're going to stay with a balanced schedule, then that divisional realignment isn't quite as important,
right?
Because you're going to play everybody. Now it's just who you're stacking up against in the standings.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was just going to say, now that the DH is out of the NL, in the NL, right, you don't have to worry about that. You don't.
Right.
I think it makes sense. Like you can almost get rid of American League, National League, have one big league, and just split them into divisions.
Yeah, I see them doing something similar to the NFL, where it's not, you're going to have the two conferences, the two right, leagues, but it's going to be a little bit less about, what league you're in and more about what area you're in, because they're going to try to set these things up where they're more geographical. So travel's a little bit easier and things like that.
Makes
So
sense.
I don't know. I'll be curious what they do, but Salt Lake wouldn't be a bad place for a team. I still am surprised that Vegas is not a front runner, but maybe it's because they're just assuming that's where the A's will end up.
I think that's why they're leaving that open, honestly.
Yep.
And they might end up competing for it. Who knows? Like if Oakland gets a new ballpark and they choose to stay in Oakland, Vegas could come out of nowhere and compete for that last spot. I mean, it's very early for Salt Lake City, but I mean, we'll see. But yeah, man, if they realign the teams, though, the Northeast division is going to be ridiculous. Boston, New York, and who? Philly. Imagine that division.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. The Red Sox finished in 4th place for about ever.
You'd probably go Toronto, Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Pittsburgh's kind of an outlier there. Maybe you'd go Pittsburgh and leave Detroit for Chicago, Milwaukee. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be weird.
The cool thing is you definitely have some options though. Like you could get creative there and maybe even find some natural rivalries and put them together. So
absolutely. So yeah, I mean the expansion isn't going to happen next year. It's still 4, 5, 6 years away. Even for the Nashville Stars, I think they were saying 2026 would be the earliest, the absolute earliest. But
because you've got to get a ballpark, you've got to get all your approvals. This is not like a
5 minor league
expansion. We're going to put a team here. Yeah, it's a hell of a process to open up a new market.
Absolutely. That's all I had for tonight. Do you have anything else to?
Few quick things. We talked about the players of the week, but didn't finish it off. So, players of the week this week: Garrett Cole in the American League, Zach Gallen in the National League. Both were absolutely nasty dominant last week. Garrett Cole's pitching like the best pitcher in baseball right now, and I hate to say it because I do not enjoy him, but he has been lights out in every freaking outing. Adam Duvall. So for us Red Sox fans, they're indicating he does not need surgery. It's a left distal fracture of the wrist. No surgery. It is a long rehab road ahead. They're basically telling him 6 weeks before he can even pick a bat back up. So you're looking at, you're probably into June before he can even pick a bat back up and start swinging again. So maybe you see him in July, but that was the wrist that had surgery. So the healing process may take longer. So at this point, the Red Sox hopeful they see him for the second half at some point, maybe July, maybe after the All-Star break. It's all going to depend on how that surgically repaired wrist heals. And then the Orioles have had a little celebration in the dugout lately where they drink from this hose.
Oh, yeah.
So they're working hard to rebrand what it's been called because they want to call it the Homer hose, but lately it's taken on the nickname of the Dong Bong.
Yeah.
And the Orioles players are trying really hard to bring it back to being called the Homer hose and not the Dong Bong.
What are they drinking out of it?
I have I can't. I want to say it's Gatorade, but I have no idea. They're being kind of coy with the whole thing, but yeah, it is technically the Homer hose. It is not the Dong Bong, and that is the name that people seem to be drifting towards. So they're trying hard to rebrand that little the little home run celebration.
Is so good.
I know it's. I mean, and they're laughing as they're saying this, but it's like, well, I get it. I wouldn't want to necessarily have a Dong Bong either, but
yeah.
It is the Homer hose.
I mean, the fact that they're like funneling stuff in the dugout is, no matter what it is, it's still like.
Well, just shows you how young that team is too. I mean, and newsflash, Adley Rutschman is good at baseball.
That kid is legit. He's going to be so fun to watch for so long.
Oh my God! So help me God, if they rest him when we're in town, I will absolutely go down on the field and drag him out and put him out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Since we're already getting robbed of O'Neal Cruz, dude. Like,
I know. It's so sad.
Absolutely.
So sad.
Yeah. Houston's working Toronto right now, 7-1.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else or?
That's it for tonight.
All right. Yeah, nice little quick one. We covered a lot in that little bit of time, but enjoy the NHL playoffs. I know they started tonight, but
go Bruins.
Yeah, I have my Canes jersey on. Nice try though. But
yeah, President's Trophy curse. They got to fight it,
man. And then that whole like
the Canes. The Canes are the only team in the playoffs that make me nervous.
And they should. But
And
dude,
yes,
the
they should.
flu that just went through the Bruins locker room before that, do you see that?
Oh,
They
yeah.
they lost like half their starting lineup. But anyways, it's a
Yeah,
baseball
not good.
podcast. All right. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, follow along with our posts. Like I said, you can subscribe on YouTube. We are on there. You can come here and chat with us at 8 p.m. every Monday night. You can also listen on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever Apple Podcasts on Apple Music. We're not on Apple Music. We don't sing. So Apple Podcasts.
We don't sing, thank God.
And wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you all next Monday at 8 p.m.